Welcome to Jazz Live at Home, a part of the BNY Mellon Presents Jazz Live series presented by the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust.
Hello and welcome back to the final episode of BNY Mellon Presents Jazz Live at Home, a production of the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust. I'm Terry Bell, and it has been my pleasure to bring you this series, and I couldn't think of a better note to end it on than to visit with none other than legendary drummer and Pittsburgh's jazz patriarch, Roger Humphries, along with his band RH Factor. Roger was just 3.5 years old when his family discovered his talent for playing drums, and he began playing professionally at the very young age of 14. In 1962, Roger joined Stanley Turrentine and Shirley Scott at Pittsburgh's famous jazz spot in the city's Hill District, the Hurricane Club. 2 years later, he was in New York joining the Horace Silver Quintet. He toured Europe with Horace and recorded 3 studio albums with him, including Song for My Father, Cape Verdean Blues, and the Jody Grind. Song for My Father went on to become one of the most legendary albums ever recorded, and the title track is one of the most recognizable of all jazz standards. Shortly after leaving Silver's band, Roger began working with Ray Charles. While in Ray Charles's band, he toured Europe and many cities throughout the U.S. In addition to the artists already mentioned, Roger has played with so many more, including James Moody, Lee Morgan, Benny Green, Lionel Hampton, Clark Terry, Dizzy Gillespie, George Benson, Joe Williams, Grant Green, Freddie Hubbard, Woody Shaw, Gerri Allen, Herbie Mann, Nancy Wilson, and the list goes on and on and on. The list of historic venues he's played is equally impressive, including the Crawford Grill in Pittsburgh, Carnegie Music Hall, the Village Gate, and the Apollo Theater in New York, Ronnie Scott's in London, and many, many more. He has taught at the Pittsburgh High School for the Creative and Performing Arts, the University of Pittsburgh, and has also taught numerous clinics, workshops, and master classes touching the lives and influencing the careers of so many students. His discography is endless, and he's received numerous awards and acknowledgments, including a proclamation from the state of Pennsylvania and the city of Pittsburgh on February 23, 2008 as Roger Humphries Day, the Governor's Award for the Arts in 2019, and an honorary degree of Doctor of Humane Letters from West Virginia Wesleyan College in the same year. I am so proud to say that he was the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust's very first recipient of its JazzLive Legacy Award in 2018. So that's Roger, and then there's his incredibly talented band that he formed in 1972. RH Factor now is Dwayne Dolphin on bass, Stellute on saxophone, Max Leake on keyboards, James Moore on trumpet, and Yoko Suzuki on sax. Each of these musicians has an impressive bio filled with many musical accomplishments. You do not get to play with Roger Humphries unless you really can play. He'd be the first to tell you this ain't no gong show, baby. So it's a real treat to get to hear this group perform. And it was so much fun to catch up with them, to hear their stories and learn a little bit more about all of them. I hope you enjoyed this visit with Roger Humphries and RH Factor and the final chapter of the Trust's BNY Mellon Presents Jazz Live at Home series.
Well, I've been fortunate because I haven't been sick, anybody like really in the family. Just been trying to wait out the time, for me and the guys to get together. And not only us, but so many other musicians, And once again, we've been fortunate that I haven't been sick with the COVID, had my shots and everything, and I'm ready to go at it and play some more. Been up to trying to practice, but I haven't been that good with the practicing thing. But listening to so much music, and we have a great radio station here, WZUM. They've been keeping me patiently healthy mentally. That's what I need anyway, the mental thing. But I feel like I've been fortunate because I have turntables and that stuff, but I have DJs who are playing for me, like on WZUM, Bob Studebaker, and all the guys, I don't leave out nobody's name, Scott and all of them. And also, I have the Sirius radio station. For me, I just love as much jazz, as much variety, rather, of music that I can get. And that's been keeping me, keeping me company since this virus has been out there.
I'm good now. I mean, that we're in this phase of the pandemic, and now that I'm fully vaccinated, you know, life is kind of as normal it can be. And I'm fine now. I was like everybody else. I felt that horrible feel of despair. And for the first time in my life, my adult life, the music actually shut off for a little while. And that was really, really tough when I didn't really wake up in the morning and hear music in my head and want to create music. But now I'm fine, and there is light.
I've been healthy and alive, and I'm grateful that I've been busy with the work at the university.
I've been good. My family's been good. Everyone's safe and healthy. I've been, of course, spending most of my days working at West Virginia Wesleyan College. I work as an administrator. I'm the vice president for academic affairs, and we've been solving problems because of COVID. And it's been a really exciting time to watch a whole bunch of smart people try and figure out how to solve problems. So I've been good. And musically, I've been very fortunate to continue to play as often as anybody is able to play these days. So I'm so grateful to folks like Terry and others at the Cultural Trust, and Marty Ashby and Renee Govanucci at Manchester Craftsmen's Guild, and John Shannon and everybody at Con Alma that's helped us all to be able to continue to play during these challenging times. So I consider myself to be very fortunate.
Well, what happens there, you know, you deal with musicians that who has a gift like you do, but at the same time, they can be on the same page you are when you're playing, you know. It's been fortunate for me that musicians have been coming to me, and we've been meeting and knowing one another so long. It just happens out of the clear blue sky, you know. You get all these great guys in your band, and as you go along, sometimes you have to help nurture other people, you know, for the style that you're dealing with. So I've been fortunate to have the band that I have, and all the musicians, not just this band, but all the musicians that I've been able to play with.
Give us one word to describe
everybody in the band. Okay.
Yoko is a young lady who just came into our lives, but has helped us all, because when you need somebody, you can call Yoko and depend on her. And she came from out of nowhere, and her personality and attitude is just off the hook, because she's a very nice person. Yeah, I enjoy playing with Yoko.
Yoko Suzuki. I ain't got one word to describe Yoko Suzuki. That's tough. This is a tough question. It's not fair. The word that I would use to describe my dear friend Yoko Suzuki would be stellar. She is a stellar musician.
James. It's not a one word, but easy and fun to play with.
Jamie loved all the guys. He loved Freddie. He got his atmosphere like about being in Vegas. You know, that's his personality, which is beautiful. And Jamie's friendly to everybody. He got me my doctorate degree, you know, and he loves music. That's all I can say about Jamie. He's a wonderful young trumpet player, man. Well, Lou is one of a kind. There ain't no other Lou, because when you get in a battle with Lou, you're in a real battle of music, man, because he doesn't leave anything behind. He plays it all from the bottom of his heart, from the first note until the very end of the song. And he's one of a kind, man. Been fortunate enough to be with him for as long as I have been, as a friend as well as a musician.
Lou Stellute. One word to describe Lou would be unique.
Lou, a role model.
Well, Max is the type of guy who's gifted. He can play the keyboard, you know, very well, swell. I don't know the term to use for it, but he can play his butt off. You know, when you want to think of one of the best keyboard players to get in the city of Pittsburgh, he deserved his spot. You know, to be like number one of the number one guys.
Max, versatile.
Max Leake. One word to describe Max Leake would be consummate. The consummate professional. Max knows every tune. Consummate professional. That's 2 words.
The first word to describe Dwayne, first of all, he got big ears, which meaning it's a positive thing for listening to music, or you hear everything. Because like no matter where somebody is playing that, his ears can pick it up, you know what I mean? His ears can pick it up and he can play with them, man. I've been knowing Dwayne since he was like 16 years old. So, you know, we go back a long way. And just like I mentioned about the other musician, man, everybody know Dwayne because him going to university, playing with Wynton Marsalis and the boys. He played with everybody. I mean, everybody. Funk, straight ahead, does better.
Dwayne, creative.
Dwayne Dolphin, double D. This is one word, I swear. It's hyphenated. I'm an academic, we hyphenate things. It's one word, and that word for Dwayne Dolphin is X Factor. He's the X Factor on every gig he's on, man. Every gig. The one and only Dr. Roger Humphries. Roger Humphries is a master. He is a master.
Roger, generous.
The word would be master. But to describe him, there's so much to him. There's so much more than, for me, because my relationship is a little bit different than the rest of the band and the rest of everybody else, because I've been around him since I was 16 years old. And he's literally more of a father figure for me than he is a drummer. So that's it.
Well, who influenced me at the very beginning would be my older brother Norman, because he played drums with my older brother Lawrence, who plays saxophone. And like ever since a kid, I remember him playing little rhythms, and I would imitate him, you know. Just been like a part of my life, like music. Well, the drum kind of like chose me, you know, at such an early age. And something you fall in love with, and it's a gift, a talent for you. It was grade school, going to junior high school. My teacher didn't have enough drums for the new kids that are coming in, and because I've been knowing Miss Skoda ever since I was a little boy at the age of 3. So she said, why don't we give one of the other kids the opportunity, Roger, to play the drums, and here's a trumpet. We'll put you on the trumpet. So that's how I started playing the trumpet at junior high school. It didn't last too long, but at least I had the experience of playing it and the fingering, which was great, you know.
Playing with Roger is the best possible learning opportunity, and I'm extremely grateful to be able to play with him in this band.
I always get asked by people who I studied with and where I went to school. You don't have to go to school to learn how to play this music. I want to be clear about that. You don't have to go to college to be a jazz musician. But I did. I went to college, and I'm very proud of who I studied with. I was able to study with the great Dr. Nathan Davis at the University of Pittsburgh, where I got my PhD, and the great John Swana and Don Glandon at the University of the Arts in Philadelphia, where I got my master's degree. But I'm perhaps most proud of where I tell people I went to undergrad, which is the University of Roger Humphries, and you never actually graduate. Roger has been a teacher and a mentor and an exemplar to me since I was an 18-year-old kid and started to go to sessions that he was leading, and he's become a mentor and I dare say a friend, and so he means everything to me as a musician. And he's taught me a lot about life. Roger's taught me that it's okay to be proud of place, to be proud of where you're from. I tell people that I am a Pittsburgher, but I'm actually a West Virginian. And I was born and raised in West Virginia, and I split my time between West Virginia and Pittsburgh. Roger's very proud of where he's from in Pittsburgh, and he's modeled that pride in place for me.
Worked with him for so long, when I finally got a break in this business to go out and to tour, my first big job was with Wynton Marsalis. I was 18. The thing was working with Roger so long that my transition to, quote, the big time wasn't such a big transition because I was playing with one of the greatest drummers in the history of jazz. So for me, that transition wasn't so hard, because I said, man, Roger taught me by playing with him, this is how you play jazz, period.
He's the face of jazz in Pittsburgh, and more broadly, he is one of the few remaining musicians who have the original sound of hard bop. And you can only hear that in the recordings nowadays, but here in Pittsburgh, we can still hear that live. So we are really lucky to have Roger in Pittsburgh.
I think one of the things is his added language to the drums worldwide. I mean, the way he plays, you take, for example, you take a song like Song for My Father, who everyone knows. When I travel around, people ask me, say, Dwayne, what's that beat that Roger plays on Song for My Father? Describe it, or tell me what it is. And I tell them all, I say, well, that's Roger. It's not a specific rhythm, it's a Rogerism. I think that's what he means to all of us. I mean, he's just he's an ideal. He's something that you really want to aspire to be. You want to be able to achieve this level of musical excellence, or what we call jazz excellence, or whatever you want to call it. He's a symbol of that. He's what you want to shoot for. This is the level. This is the final frontier right here.
Roger Humphries is an international jazz icon. I think sometimes it's easy for us in Pittsburgh to take for granted the amount of amazing musicians we have in this town. There are so many that if I start to name them, I'll leave people out, and that won't be good. Roger is so important to us in Pittsburgh because all of us exist on this continuum of jazz and African American music in Pittsburgh, and I'm very fortunate as someone who's not an African American to be a guest in that tradition. And Roger he's the point of the continuum. He's the point furthest out that I can look to and say, this is where I need to go, and this is where the music has been. He's so important to the music in Pittsburgh. And he's known all over the country and the world as somebody who's a master of this music. When I moved to Philadelphia to get my master's degree, I went to a session that Mickey Roker, the great drummer, was running at Ortlieb's, very similar to the one that Roger used to run for many years. And he asked me where I was from after I played my first tune with him, terrified. I said, well, I'm a Pittsburgh musician. He said, Roger Humphries. Yes, Roger Humphries. And I was immediately part of a club because of everything that Roger has accomplished. So I'm always grateful for Roger and what he's done for all of us in Pittsburgh and beyond.
So I'm not going to go funny because this would take too long. But I remember one gig we played one time, believe it or not, at a place called Lou Rita's in Washington, PA, which was no big deal, so to speak. But that night was very special to me because the guys were teasing me about this because we were all playing, and Roger played a song. I can't remember what the song we were playing. But if you can imagine this particular night, after playing with him since I was a little 16-year-old kid, this particular night, he exceeded my expectations of what I thought he could do as a musician, as a drummer. And I just broke down crying on stage, and the band members were like, "D, you okay?" I said, "Man, I'm fine, man." I said, what's wrong? I said, "I've never heard anybody play that well on any instrument in jazz, period." I said, "Tonight, that's probably the best that you could play the drums." And I was just absolutely floored by that. And that's one of the most memorable moments.
Oh man, there's so many. For many years, we were fortunate enough to be able to play every Thursday at CJ's in the Strip, 29th and Penn. And it was a session, which means that the first set was reserved for the house band, RH Factor, and then people would come up for the second and third sets and sit in. So one night we had a musician come up, a piano player, and the musician said, I'd like to sit in, and I'd like to play a ballad. And people don't often call ballads at a jam session. Most of the time, people will come up and they'll want to play a lot, show what they've got, a lot of fireworks. And so we were very excited that this musician said, "I want to play a ballad. I want to play Body and Soul." And Roger said, that's great, baby, let's do it. So he said, "Okay, I'll do an intro." And so the piano player starts to do an intro, and it was very busy, very aggressive. And Roger said, "Okay, baby, leave some space. Let's take our time and tell a story." And it got busier. And then we went into the melody. And the piano playing continued to be busy and busier. Almost like Coltrane's Sheets of Sound, but not. And Roger started to say over top of all the music, he would say, "Leave space. Leave some space. We're trying to tell a story, man. Come on. Leave some space, baby." And the musician kept nodding at Roger. It's like, "Yeah, sure." But he wasn't leaving any space. And by the end of the first chorus of the melody, I mean, Roger was yelling at this musician. And he never did quite get the message. I was so glad that there were students there that night to see that moment.
I would have to say one of the greatest performance that I did was with Horace Silver, and we went to France, and it was on the Riviera, and it was so amazing because I had never been to France, and taking this journey, and I think let me see who was on it. Boy, I can't think of it. Ella Fitzgerald was on that concert that night, and like it was something else because it just wasn't us. They had about 3 bands, but to be on the Riviera in that atmosphere, and that's one of the greatest moments I do remember traveling. What inspired me, like I said, my older brother turning me on to the drummers, Philly Joe, and my two mentors that let me set in because I didn't know Philly Joe like that was Art Blakey and Max Roach as coming up. And every time they come to town, they would let me sit in, with the other band members, how I first met Freddie Hubbard, Hank Mobley, and all these people, man, through the guys coming into Pittsburgh and letting me sit in with them, at the band. So Max Roach and Art Blakey was my two inspiring drummers in my life. Kind of creating or having to do with so many great musicians that come out of Pittsburgh. And it's hard, you cannot really just figure this out. They have said it's in our water, because no place could produce that many great musicians. It's just something that these people come from, the city of Pittsburgh, and one of the things that they've been doing since I've been a kid, they've been like passing it on to the next generation, okay? And I think that's really so strong about everything because there's no school for you to go to, but your family, like I was raised up in the club with the jam session. That's where you go learn the language and learn how to play better, when you're younger, with the older musicians.
I do many things in life. Unfortunately, music performance is not the main thing I do. I teach and also do research work. And having a balance between them is very difficult. And but not having all is also really difficult, and especially it made me realize that not being able to perform would make my life really boring and sad.
Well, it made me feel like now everything you do and anything you do, you can't really take it for granted because we don't know anything about tomorrow. And I'm thinking about as soon as I can to put something together again, like for the boat ride, because these are things that people miss gathering together. And like I said, you don't miss the water until it run dry. And that's the same way about the music. All the nightclubs close up, can't nobody go anywhere. And it's a very peaceful place to be, when you're around a lot of people that you love, you like, and the music take you to another place.
I'm not sure if I have fans, but I really appreciate everyone who comes out to hear me play. So thank you very much.
I would say thank you. Thank you for coming out to see us. Thank you for always supporting us. Maybe even more importantly than saying thank you, which should go without saying, but I don't want to leave that out. What's more important is for me to say this. Keep coming out to see Roger Humphries and to hear Roger Humphries. Every time I've played with Roger since I was about 19 years old, the first time I sat in with him in a session, and I hear something new every night that I am privileged to play with Roger Humphries. So don't take that for granted. Keep coming out to hear Roger, because you're going to hear something new every time, and you're going to learn something new every time, because I learn something new every time. Keep on coming.
I learned something during this pandemic. I thought that I played the bass for me. And it's funny when you have a whole year to be in the house and to sit with my instrument, and it's cool, but it ain't no fun if I'm not playing for you. That's what it's all about. Thank you.
Well, what I would like to say to my fans is thank you for all the support that you have given me, and please continue to support my band RH Factor, and thank you once again. Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this inside look at Pittsburgh's jazz scene and the artists who make it so very special. We'd like to thank our sponsor, BNY Mellon, for their continued support of the JazzLive series. And on behalf of all of us at the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust, we'd like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in and spending this time with us. We couldn't do it without you. We hope you will consider making a donation. It is through your generous support that we've been able to bring you world-class arts experiences for more than 35 years and to your home during this time of intermission. Please go to trustarts.org/supportjazz. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in the Cultural District soon.